is Stephanie Martinez, and this is my IB Biology final passion project. So I decided to title this Connecting with the World as I painted several different biomes and plants native to them with watercolors that I made at home. So first, going into this as my final passion project for biology, I decided that I wanted to incorporate as much of the outdoors as I could, so what better way to do this than making my own watercolor paint naturally? Firstly, I decided to collect materials such as tea leaves, coffee grounds, and colorful plants, and I began by cutting open 4 Lipton green tea packets and putting them all in a clear dish. Next, I added very hot water and let the tea leaves sit for approximately 20 minutes. Once I felt that enough color was present, I used a mason jar and I wedged in a coffee filter between the lid in order to strain the mixture and not allow any of the tea leaves into the paint. And then I finally moved this watercolor paint to a new dish for later usage. Disclaimer, if you try this at home, I'm not exactly sure how long these paints can last you. Personally, for me, I just used them while I was making my art piece and then I threw them out. For my next homemade watercolor paint, I decided that I wanted to use coffee grounds to give me a very pigmented color, and this proved to be very useful in my art making process as the brown was actually very pigmented and it showed up very well. So in order to make this color, I added 1 tablespoon of coffee grounds to a new coffee filter in the mason jar, so making sure to switch the coffee filters and clean the mason jar between colors. Next, I added very hot water again and waited for the liquid to come through the filter. Again, I moved this mixture to a clean dish for later usage, making sure to add labels to each one. At this point, I realized that I was basically going to be painting with coffee. This concept was different because most often we're used to the industrial goods that we purchase, such as paint to paint and coffee to drink. How unorthodox to use coffee as paint. It works. So, aside from using household products, I also decided to use what I could find outdoors. In order to make what appears to be a pink/purple color, I used 3 full hibiscus Rosa sinensis. I took these apart, and firstly I thought maybe I could follow the tea method to fish out the color from the petals. However, I quickly realized that this would take too long. As such, I decided to put all the flowers into a small blender with hot water again. Not much was actually needed, and you ended up with a liquid mixture that was very thick, so I continued with the same straining process as before. Feel free to squish the filter lightly in order to speed up the process, being careful not to rip the coffee filter. So, using the same method as previously, I decided to blend green leaves with some added water. As a result, I got a very sticky and thick mixture. This time I used 2 different coffee filters and carefully squeezed the water out of the mixture, since it happened to be very, very thick. Although I was able to get some chlorophyll pigment from the leaves, when using it on paper it wasn't as pigmented as I could have hoped for. However, I was able to use it and it was visible. In my perspective, even though the colors aren't as vibrant as traditional watercolor paint, it was a success to even be able to see them, and they came from organic means. Pretty cool in my opinion. In order to make a yellow tone, I again used tea leaves. This is a tea mixture from the website David's Tea titled Midsummer's Night Dream. The previous green tea had given me a hazy yellow color. It turned out to be one of the most prominent colors that I used in my art piece, but as such I decided to make a brighter yellow color. However, this color also didn't show up very well on paper. For my last color, I decided to use hibiscus Jamaica leaves. Not surprisingly, they were very pigmented, and this as well ended up being a color that I used a lot throughout my art piece. Overall, this color surprised as well as satisfied the qualifications as a watercolor, as it was most prominent on paper. Instead of it drying red or pink as I would have expected, The pigment turned blue/purple once it dried, which was similar to the case with the Hibiscus rose essences, which turned into a grayish/green color once it was dry. So these were the final colors that I got and some final swatches that I did with it. If you zoom in, you can see each of the colors, biomes, and their native plants. My final passion project connects to two of the IB biology topics that we studied. So first, my art pictures for different major biomes, which is something that we saw in our option C. These were the rainforest, the desert, grasslands, and finally the taiga. Next, it relates to topic 9 of plant biology, as the paintings depict different plants native to that biome. Also, the structures of the plants are labeled along with their scientific name. In conclusion, the method in which I painted was unorthodox, but it further pushed the connection to nature in my artwork. So if we zoom in, here is the rainforest with the Hibiscus rose essences, and I was able to label the organism. In my desert, I decided to use a Opuntia fiscus indica. In my grasslands, I used a Helianthus. And then finally in my taiga, I used a Pinophylla. And this was a different process that I went through as I began painting. Overall, they were very pigmented and I was happy with the result.